Hey guys, welcome to the workshop, and welcome to kind of the first video of whatever I'm calling this. By the time you see this video, you'll see the title of it, but basically Chris reacts, and so I want to start doing some reaction videos to videos on YouTube, and I'm trying a few different things. So number one, I've got this different camera angle, I've got this different camera angle, and I also got this different camera angle. So I'm playing around with different things to try to keep things a little bit more interesting, but we're going to jump into something that I've kind of wanted to do for a while, was review one of my own videos, and it is my most popular video, which is the DIY wooden countertop. I've had a lot of comments through the years that it's been out, and I've also had a lot of thoughts throughout the process of seeing what I've done. So I thought it'd be a really good idea to just go ahead and make a reaction video talking about it and the things that I would have done maybe a little bit different. So we're going to jump right into it. Hey guys, welcome to the workshop. In today's video, I'm going to make a butcher block kitchen countertop. So stick around. Well, I really used to like that intro. But so, what have we added? 14 seconds in, and we haven't even got to the content yet. So I first went to Lowe's and bought some 2x10 lumber. That way when I would cut these down later, I would end up with something that was roughly about 8.5 to 9 inches. I gotta say, it's always interesting going back in time and seeing what things looked like 5 years ago.
Every length and every dimension I need.
So I gotta pause right there. So way over here in this corner, right here, there's a little playhouse now. And where these boards are, that's actually where I have the garden boxes. And I don't know, kind of interesting thing. That's that just food for thought.
3 solid butcher blocks, and so I ended up cutting them.
Okay, I just said it. Butcher blocks. That's by far the biggest comment that I've got. This is not butcher block. Yes, I know. It's not butcher block. But for some reason, I chose to call it butcher block. And truthfully, it's just a wooden countertop. So the title reflects it, the thumbnail reflects it, the description reflects that, but unfortunately I couldn't go and change that. So yeah, this is not butcher block.
Than each one, just so I had enough. If I needed to trim a little bit off the ends, I would have some extra. Now, once all these were cut, it was time to start cutting the roundovers off. If you don't already know, when you buy lumber from most hardware stores, there is a roundover on every corner, and that's to prevent chipping while it's being moved around. And in my case, I do not want those, so I had to scrap about a 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch of it. And I did that on both sides on every single board.
Well, 5 years ago, my shop really hasn't changed a whole lot.
And after running it through the table saw, then I wanted to skip plane it with my planer just to make one smooth side. Wasn't highly concerned about the other side, so I just kept doing the same side over and over just to get most of the saw marks off.
So just a little behind the scenes of this shot here. Most of these videos that I do at night. For instance, this one right now, it's actually about 11 o'clock at night. But back 5 years ago, I was doing these mostly on Friday nights, and I would typically really kind of get into it around midnight, 1 o'clock even, and then if my wife and kids weren't in the house, I'd be even later. So that loud noise of that planer, my wife would actually hear, and sometimes she would text me and say, "Hey, enough's enough," because it's so loud. I mean, I'm wearing hearing protection, and I'm playing music. So that was a good distraction. But without that thing, sucker is very loud.
Now, like I said, I had 3 of these to do, so I'm really going to just show you how I put together one of them, and then you'll know how I did the rest. Now, some of these boards had a little bit of a bow in it, so I had to hand plane those so that by the time I would put them all together, there was no gap between any of the boards.
Honestly, nothing so far I would have really changed.
A good bit of time.
Been pretty happy with how this was.
So then
something I did want to comment on too. I had run all this through the planer.
The thing is, I do regret not doing the bottom side, and it's a little bit in reference to something that happens later in the video where I put the polyurethane and all that stuff. I regretted not sealing the bottom, and because I didn't do that, some of the areas in my shop that have, I mean, not shop, the kitchen, that have more moisture, like where the dishwasher is, it did warp up maybe about a 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch. Honestly, we don't mind because it kind of gives it more character, but if you're not into that, you probably ripped it out by now. So other than that area, everything else has been stable, but I really wish I had smoothed it out so when I could put like some polyurethane on it, it wouldn't be so difficult, but I do regret that.
I had a little dilemma. I did not have enough clamps to clamp this whole thing together. The width of this thing is about 25 inches, and I only had 24-inch bar clamps, and they only opened to 22 inches. So I had this idea of gluing the first two together, clamping them together, and then standing it upright and screwing these boards to the back of each board. And
okay, well, you might just see me looking around here. I'm starting to wonder why I even mentioned that, because even in the video, I have some bigger clamps, and I have them here.
Would in turn
it's funny.
give me
5 years later,
the ability to have that clamping it together.
I don't remember my
and then by
video.
the time I added the third board, I could use the two clamps that I had to glue these together.
Yeah. So I know what I'm doing here. I'm just a little confused. So I just talked about clamping. I didn't have enough clamps, or big enough. And if I remember, what's those? Why did I do the boards? I never even screwed the boards on. So I'm a little confused.
So now that all the glue is dried on all of the...
This is the funniest thing. So I had two clamps. Now, granted, I would have probably wanted more than two clamps on there, but I never screwed the boards. And then I could have just went to Harbor Freight and bought some more. They're cheap enough, and I'm literally 5 minutes away. I don't know.
Different boards that
I'm cracking
together.
Jokes on myself.
It was time to knock all of the really high glue squeeze outs off. Then I went over it with a low surface plane to get rid of some more of the glue.
I mean, I'm telling you, there really are some things that have not changed. This little thing here,
and then I
it's still hanging in the shop right there.
With my number
7
hand
this is fun.
To smooth
Hope
it
you're
out.
enjoying
There
it.
was a
I'm
little bit
enjoying
of a
this.
cup that happened, and
very interesting.
When I did this, it also gave it a really neat effect.
Yeah, I would say it actually did turn out really nice.
The most fun part.
So yeah, when I did that hand planing, I didn't do it to actually like make it smooth and calm, or like you know, like the edges you wouldn't feel it. I did it to kind of give it a look. I would have preferred to have like a sawmill look to it, but I didn't really have a way of thinking to how I was going to do that. But going at an angle, it really did kind of make everything pop. Turned out pretty good, actually. I was pretty happy with it.
Great job is the sanding, and this took a long time because I had 3 different ones to do. Now, after I sanded it, before I was applying my stain, I still wanted to put pre-stain conditioner on this, just to level out some of the high and low spots when I would do the stain.
Yeah, so anytime you do anything with pine, you really need to use pre-stain conditioner. I've got a video all about that. You can watch that, find it out. It's there. It's really good to
to do. It just
If you're
basically
doing this video
gives the
so far, please
watching
consider
this away,
subscribing to this
makes
channel,
it
because on this channel I do a
have
lot
a nice,
of things
even,
just like this.
smooth coat.
Everything that I do is DIY. I also do a lot of projects, and then I do a lot of tip videos. So if anything like that interests you, please hit the subscribe button and make sure to click the little bell icon to be notified of every future video that I put out. Now, after rubbing off the Access
I love the look of it right there, to be honest with you.
then I went ahead and used my new Rust-Oleum stain. And if you watched one of my videos previously, I tested this against the Minwax, and this was my favorite. So if you're interested in that video, you can click the little card up at the top right corner and watch that video.
Yeah, we love that Rust-Oleum stuff. In fact,
so now it was on
still
to
got
the
it right
demo.
here.
Now, I didn't record a bunch of the demo because this video, it was not about remodeling the kitchen. This was about the butcher block. So, just going to show you
Not
a little
butcher
bit
block.
of what I ended up doing. I had to remove
Not
my
butcher
stove.
block.
I had to remove the old sink. We were not
Wooden
going to use
countertop.
the old sink.
Wooden
We ended
countertop.
up going
Not
with
butcher block.
the 8-inch depth farmhouse sink that we purchased, and really like it a lot. But we reused the same stove that we had before.
Yeah, I wrote the word bye-bye on it. No, my wife did. That's right. It's funny. Oh my goodness, I remember that. When we bought this house, we put up the backsplash, but we actually ended up putting it up, like all the way up. It looks really nice. But that countertop was such an eyesore for so many years. We were so glad to get it out of there. There's the farmhouse sink. That's been really nice. That has been really nice. We've got no chips in it.
So I just began by laying these all out just to see how everything fit, see if I needed to trim anything, and I did end up making one a lot longer than it should have been. In fact, about a whole foot longer, so I'm not sure how that happened, but at least it wasn't shorter.
So I regret
So then I just stuck a ruler underneath and hit
I'll say in a minute.
touch the sink, I would make a line, and that would be giving me the mark where I would then take this outside and cut it. Now, I ended up lining my line with painter's tape, and that is a little trick that you may want to do just to...
So, two things. I really, really regretted cutting around the sink the way that I did this. What I would have really liked to have done was to have made a board from end to end solid and cut the sink out, kind of the way all countertop is. It would have looked better. It would have had no seams at the back where the faucets and all that comes out. It would have just been much better. But I didn't do that. And then in the corner, I didn't do a miter. I really wish I did a miter. I mean, all these things would have been much harder, especially for my shop. It's such a small shop. But would have just looked a lot better. And would not have had some of the problems I had, because around the stove, I had to put a piece in the front.
Any splintering that could potentially
it still moves
happen
to this
on
day.
the
It's
top
just
side
not the
of
best.
the countertop.
I would have totally done that different. Busting out the Milwaukee. The other saw is just not quite powerful enough.
So I ended up having to do this for both sides of the sink. Also ended up doing it for a piece of wood that was behind the sink. And then this is a part that went right in front of the stove. Ended up having to piece together a couple of other pieces to make this all work out.
Yeah, and that was a bad mistake. Should not have done it this way. It's just terrible. I mean, you can kind of see right there.
And here we have it. All the countertop is installed.
It has a
it's
bow
all
to it.
screwed in from below. So all of that is nice and secure now. So then I used the Minwax polyacrylic on this, and when this whole project was done, I ended up with about 8 coats of this on there. I really like the water base. I just think it gives it a better look. It doesn't yellow or tint any of the stain. It looks just as good as it did when you applied it. But in between every coat, I did a little bit of a light sanding and then applied more. And this thing would dry in about 2 hours. So I was able to get a lot of coats on in a short amount of time.
So I'll pause there. It's polyacrylic. I really like polyacrylic. I use it on everything, and I used it on a piece of wood in our bathroom. It's right above. It's one of these like decorative pieces of wood above the shower, and it's near water. And I've never had any problems with it. It's great. But when we did this countertop, something happened that was a little different. The polyacrylic reacted weird, and it would get sticky. Just something happened to it. Weren't really pleased with it, and especially around the sink. In fact, I think I do it in this video. I use the epoxy resin, and put it in there so that it would, no water would have a chance of penetrating the wood, and it worked really well. It wasn't sticky or nothing. So I ended up later on, a couple years later, completely coating this entire thing with the epoxy, and we've had 0 issues now. I mean, it wipes clean really good. Have had no issues. Now, we do not prepare food directly on this thing. We use cutting boards that I've made. We use plastic mats. We use all sorts of things. Clearly, we're not putting meat on this. So I know a lot of countertops you can do that. Butcher block, you could do stuff like that, and using like an oil finish would have been much better, but not in this case.
To fill up all of the wood knots and some of the defects in the wood, I wanted to maintain the look of it, so I ended up filling it with epoxy resin. And if this is a product that you really like, you can get this and a link down in the description of this video. That will take you to the website to be able to buy this stuff. And after letting that dry and cure overnight, I ended up putting probably several more coats of polyacrylic on there. So like I said, about 8 coats when it was all said and done. Put the faucet in, put the stove in, and then my wife did her thing, and the kitchen looks spectacular. Very happy with how this turned out.
I mean, that's pretty much the end of the video. Like I said, I mean, I ended up putting the epoxy resin over the entire thing, and it took about a day for that stuff to dry and get all solid, and it turned out great. We've got a different island in there now, much bigger, and it works really well. Different lighting, different everything. I mean, it's changed quite a bit in there. But I've enjoyed doing this reaction video, and I did this purposely on my own because I kind of wanted to poke fun at myself, and I wanted to see how much has changed. But in the future, I do have some ideas of maybe doing some reaction videos on some other videos, other channels. Maybe if there's something that you would like me to react about, drop it in the comments, put the link in there, and let me know what videos you would like me to react about. But I very much enjoyed this. If you enjoyed it and you're still watching to this point, please leave a thumbs up, drop a comment below, and subscribe if you haven't already. But I want to say thank you for watching this, and I hope to do more of these. But I'll see you next time right here in my workshop.